Good morning, everyone. I am Dr. Naveen Haku, and the topic of my presentation is Development and Disaster, the Sustainable Perspective. In this presentation, I'll be talking about the concomitance between development and disaster and how the combined understanding of both is very important for sustainable development. My presentation will be divided into three parts. In the first part, I'll be talking about the introduction to the concepts, which will be followed by the explanation of these, and then I'll sum it up with the concluding points. The development and disaster, these cannot be taken into account. These cannot be understood in isolation, in their own silos. In order to bring about a holistic understanding of sustainable development, we need to take both development and disaster in concomitance so that we can have an integrated approach towards the influences that have affected the existence of humans on earth. We all are aware and we must have seen that the haphazard path to the development, it can usually breed disasters. And whenever disasters are triggered, these have the potential to smother and obliterate any of the developmental activities that have taken place. Now, this can push the existence of humans back to the Stone Age. Therefore, it's very imperative, it's very important that we think of a policy that considers both development as well as disaster as being equal factors. And this will be very fundamental to have the build up towards sustainable development under the umbrella of the global disaster risk reduction. But we are aware at the same time there are challenges in achieving such targets as have been put forth in the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction and the UNDP Sustainable Development Goals. And this also requires the further advances in the understanding of the interrelationship that the developmental activities have with the breeding of disasters. A very fundamental understanding of disaster and development. It concludes that these are combined processes which go hand in hand that are exemplified by the long term tendency of the human beings to fall prey to many different catastrophes. And at the same time, we need to agree that the humans are resilient and we have the potential to develop relatively uh, good health and we have the potential to be in the environment of well-being. The combined disaster and development outcomes, they come and go. These usually play over uh, the landscape, which is very vast, which is very broad, which is very large. And all across this landscape of human existence, what we have seen is the interplay between these two factors, that is the development and disaster. Now, major catastrophic events, they also have the potential to alter the future course of the human race, primarily in context of the environmental, social, and economic disruptions. And these have been experienced by the human race since the time immemorial. But in the present scenario, the understanding of these factors becomes all the more important. It has also been seen that in the recent academic discourses that affect the everyday human life, the understanding of the disaster risk reduction, it's very important towards the achievement of the sustainable development goals. And finally, coming up to the conclusion, the sustainable progress on human time scale, it can be identified in terms of interplay between disaster and development. And based on the problem analysis, both disaster risk reduction and sustainable development needs have yet to be resolved in most part of the world. And whatever future work that we are considering in context of policy build-up or framework build-up, it's largely based on emotional and ideological settings, but it requires formidable actions so as to bring in fundamental changes where the moment are lagging. As put forth by Lewis in his work in the year 2012, the primary focus should be on the intervention in disaster risk creation and in terms of demographics, environmental sustainability, and human security, as exemplified by Collins in his work dating back to 2019. Now, given the critical condition in which a majority of the world's inhabitants are living, it's very important that we further the understanding in the field of disaster and development and the interplay and the interrelationship between them, which is very important to make progress sustainably. With this, I'd like to end our presentation. Thank you very much for your kind hearing.